Today, Ben and I are going to talk about data governance, specifically in the healthcare domain. I'm going to talk in the healthcare domain specifically, but Ben, I think, would cover from his side more in a broader perspective. Once we get the slides going. Oh, there we go. Awesome. All right. Do you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everybody here and online. I'm Ben Herzberg, Chief Scientist and VP Marketing of Satori, which is an unusual combination, I know. Joined the company about 5 years ago and became VP Marketing along the way. Got 3 kids. One of them is sitting right there, minding her own business. And 2 cats. One is useful, one is not. And 1 dog, a yellow lab. And I also wrote a book about snowflake security, basically because I didn't find one. I wanted to understand better how do you protect your snowflake assets as a company. And I wrote it alongside with another co-author. We couldn't find any books that takes you step by step. So we just did that, and that's me.
All right, and Arun Buduri, I'm the VP of Platform Engineering at Innovaccer. I've tried to build startups in the past, currently at Innovaccer for 4+ years, and really enjoying it here. And if you want to talk about food or music, I'm all game, or a beer. I think I'll talk about Innovaccer and then what we do, and then get into the details about how we use AI, data, security, and so on, and then Ben can come in. So what does Innovaccer do? We are the fastest growing health tech company, and we are the most comprehensive healthcare AI platform. We unify all of healthcare, and our mission is to deliver incredible health outcomes and bring back the joy of care. And we do that in various ways. You'll see as I talk through this. Eventually, we want to ensure every human on this earth has been touched by our software in one way or the other. That's our vision. Back to this one, this is the quadruple aim of healthcare by the IHI, and it's focused completely on improving the healthcare outcomes of the population in general at a broad perspective, reduce healthcare costs, and most importantly, deliver healthcare outcomes for the patients. But now the 4th arm has been added, which is to ensure the providers are not getting the doctors are not getting burnt out. So, I'm not going to read through all this, but we have all kinds of healthcare certifications, HIPAA, HITRUST. We've been rated the #1 healthcare data platform 3 times in a row. Many of the big healthcare customers are our healthcare partners, are our customers, and we manage about roughly 65 million patient data with us. So you can imagine why data is of paramount importance for us. And through our solutions, we deliver a lot of value to our customers who have the purpose of managing the health of a really large population. And we've delivered a lot of metrics. I'm not going to go through each of these, but want to show you the kind of problems that we tackle through the data that we manage. A lot of it is around providing today, 65% of patients expect better healthcare experience when they go to a doctor or even after the visit. Or providers are getting burnt out because they have to do a lot of documentation. The same thing with care managers that are involved in this whole process, and so on. So there's a lot of documentation, rudimentary work that happens that's where AI comes in with a lot of data that we work with. So the fundamentally, Innovaccer is about what is called a value-based care approach rather than the traditional fee-for-service. Hey, doctor, I'm sick, please treat me. And the doctor treats you, gives you a bill for the service. You pay a fee for that. That's called fee-for-service. But the accountability of the health of the patient is with the patient. But in value-based care, there's a contract given to an entity called an accountable care organization that's accountable for the health of the patient so that the patient is happy and healthy over a long period of time so that you reduce the healthcare outcomes, reduce the healthcare costs, and deliver better health outcomes for the patients. And we focus on 3 pillars, and this is the AI pillar, productivity. But the fundamental underneath here is data, healthcare data. So it all begins with how we bring in tons and tons of data together in a unified health record. So that's our magic sauce. You could have data from an Epic or a Cerner or a lab or a pharmacy, and you probably are aware of this saying that says, if you've seen one Epic, you've seen one Epic. So just because 2 entities use Epic doesn't mean they're all the same formats. So we unify all of healthcare, and we are expanding to many more data types. And we have a product called Data Activation Platform, DAP, where we unify all of this into a standardized data model. And from then on, anything that's downstream from that standardized data model is completely using that standardized data, because I don't care what format the data is in. So this is where all kinds of data security and compliance comes in, because which app or which service is using what data of which patient and why. That kind of data kind of knowledge and auditing is extremely important, especially with HIPAA, HITRUST, and all kinds of compliance coming in. And we as a company, we are really changing the game of healthcare. We want to touch every human on this earth eventually with our solutions.
Is that unified health record standardized?
That is the standardized health record. It's our health record standard format. It's our proprietary data format. Yeah. So this is, I know there's a lot here, but I just want to quickly show how data moves into our entire architecture. So on the left extreme is all kinds of data from EMRs, HIEs, and labs, and healthcare claims data in various different formats, CSVs or FHIR, JSON, or name it, we can integrate it. And we have done it for the past 6-7 years. And it goes through what is called L0, L1, L2, L3, L4, and L5, 5 stages of data transformations. And L2 is where the data gets standardized. And after that, there's a lot of analytics, AI that happens on top of that. There's also Snowflake data sharing that happens with our customers who want a standardized data format because they have so many labs, so many providers, so many clinics that are so diverse systems that they just cannot manage. And we standardize it for them. And then we've got interoperability as well, the FHIR API standards, and then eventually the end user facing applications through which they deliver incredible care for the patients to deliver health outcomes. And so through this, there's what you're not seeing here. I know it shows us AWS, but we are on AWS and Azure on both the clouds. And Snowflake is the data lake behind the scenes. And what you're not seeing here is the user management, access control, user authorization layers that are working behind the scenes, and the data compliance and the data security management that's taking care of how data flows and who accesses what data where. So as I said, roughly about around 65 million patient population of the US, we manage that, and that's increasing by the day. Yeah.
And do you have something that says we
officially secure data? Like, is there some kind of a thing that you get certified or something?
Absolutely. So yeah, I can go back here. So we have all of these certifications. We go through that every year. SOC 2 Type 2, NIST, HIPAA, HITRUST, name it. We are compliant with all of that. And I mean I can talk for hours on the security, VDI, and all that. But so everything starts with how the products are built in the engineering teams. So it starts with the engineering product development security, which has several stages here. And this is extremely critical, how we develop products and how we build so that there are no vulnerabilities or as minimal vulnerabilities as possible when the applications are hosted on the web. So this shows the various stages of how we build software and what all we check for before it hits production. This in itself is an extremely important aspect that if it's startup, mid-sized startups, it does become a challenge to get to this. So now, in terms of healthcare data governance, there are many aspects of what is important in terms of how we build and manage this data to deliver the kind of solutions that we give to our customers. And among that is, let's see, scale and growth. We have changed our architecture, I would say, like 4 times now in the past 7 years, all the way from, if I go back, Hadoop, HBase, if you know the tech side of things, all the way from there to right now in a Snowflake kind of an architecture. And we've evolved from ingesting about, let's say, in the hundreds of gigabytes of data per customer to now almost in the petabyte, tens of hundreds of petabytes of data per customer. Because you're talking 65 million patient population of the US and increasing. So handling such large volumes of data with analytics and things running every day and data access happening every day, there's so much logs, so much auditing that you need to ensure as to find so that you can track who's using which data to deliver what service. And at the same time, keep track of the performance and reliability. This is extremely important, and to ensure to do that, you need to have a modular and scalable architecture, like a microservice architecture. And in 2020, end of 2020, we moved from being just AWS and becoming a cloud agnostic because our customers were demanding to be on Azure as well. So that was a big multi-cloud strategy that we executed. And by end of 2021, we were on both the clouds with all our applications. Then comes technological diversity in terms of the amount of data, the types of data. Today we have connectivity to 50 plus EMR types and hundreds and hundreds of different templates of how to ingest different types of healthcare data. And all the sources that I showed in one of the slides earlier. And most importantly, the industry is moving towards interoperability. So ensuring the FHIR standards, FHIR standards are held up to in terms of how we get data and how we interact data with our customers, how they use with their own customers or other partners, how the data is shared. So building that layer was also extremely important. And then the most important is compliance. This security is number 0 priority, most important than anything. And we've been increasing as in more requirements keep coming up. Now we are looking at Mars-E as we get into the federal and state compliance, FedRAMP, StateRAMP, they're also coming up in the roadmap. But most importantly, HIPAA, HITRUST, and the others that you saw on the previous slide are important. Audit trails and logging, this is the most important in terms of who is accessing, who is running what kind of query, what kind of access control do they have, what data did they see, when was that query run. We use Satori for data compliance heavily, across all our customers. It's a very elegant solution. It's like an HTTP proxy, so very, very lightweight. And we have our own audit compliance solution, homegrown inside the solution, which app, which user accessed which patient data, and automatic masking, and so on. So the ACL and org hierarchy at our customers, they have like an ACO, accountable care organizations have different locations, and every location has its own hierarchy. So imagine a hierarchy tree, a person in which level of hierarchy has data access to everything underneath but not above it. So we have our own homegrown solution of org hierarchy and role-based access control, authorization, who gets access to what kind of data. So this has been fundamental since day one, how we were building this solution. And data masking is extremely important because if you run a select star from a table, and if there is some PII or something that you don't have access to, but you still want to be able to run that query without violating HIPAA or other rules, that's why that like a data compliance tool. And again, here Satori has been really helpful. It automatically detects the kind of PII fields and masks them, auto masking. And secure data sharing, we don't allow any data access directly. You have to go through like a VDI solution through which there are a lot of security policies put there. No downloading, no screenshot, no copy paste. So all kinds of PHI data that is dealt with goes through the VDI. So pretty much zero trust policy there. And when it comes to AI, we are heavily involved, heavily putting AI in almost everything that we do. That is the future. That is where we are investing heavily. And how we train, for example, doctor talking to the patient, the burnout that I was talking about, we have a product called Inscribe, which automatically takes that speech, converts to text, automatically summarizes into SOAP notes format for the doctor to quickly review and put it back into the EMR. That is a very, very important time-saving task for the doctor, because normally it takes about 10 minutes after the patient after the patient visit, but now that reduces to 1 minute. So reduce the burnout and getting AI. How do you train those models? Where is the healthcare data coming from? How is that data being accessed? And so on. So getting that kind of regulatory control on which AI model is using which aspect of a patient data, and getting that kind of compliance becomes very, very important. So that's something that we are putting those governance control in place as well. And so if you're looking at getting into AI or starting to putting AI solutions in place, all of these controls are extremely important. I mean, I didn't want to go into too details and leave out for Q&A, but yeah, feel free to ask questions, but I'll hand it over to Ben.
Thank you, Arun. All right. So I will share a little bit about how we see things on our end. We have we are working with several healthcare providers and healthcare analytic providers, and they all have the challenge of lots of data, lots of use cases for the data. And what we see, and across other industries as well, obviously we're not we're not specific to healthcare only. What we see is basically as companies have more data, more AI use cases, more data, more analytics use cases as well, and the more requirements they have over that data. So if it's just a performance log that's being collected, and they have heaps of log data that is meaningless to anyone who tries to make value out of that data, that's one thing. But if the data is regulated or contractual with customers and so on, and if they're using for many use cases, it becomes very complex to manage access and security and governance over that data. That's basically the problem we saw when starting out Satori 5 years ago. We were working in companies that had lots of data. I had access to a lot of data. I was the data owner of a lot of very interesting data in my previous company, and sharing it with other teams so that the entire organization can make value out of it was a big problem. That's what intrigued me to join the team. So a lot of data admin team is lost on, enabling masking or row-level security or provisioning access to data and so on. A lot of that time is wasted. A lot of data and AI projects are either delayed or even fail due to waiting to meet security and compliance requirements. And eventually, after all of that is said and done, a lot of companies compromise on the level of security and access that they allow their users to have. So that is basically what we see. And so we started our data security platform. Data security platforms are used for a variety of different use cases. These are some of these. It's to apply RBAC and ABAC, attribute-based access control, universally across all the data, masking data across the board, multi-cloud and multi-data platform auditing, and so on. So that is basically what we as a data security platform do. And basically, as I was saying, the more requirements and use cases there are, the more complex it turns the work of making sure that it's done in a secure and compliant way. So, for example, you have the upcoming EU AI Act. You have GDPR over your data, and so on. Some of the requirements are forced down by security. Some of the requirements are pushed by compliance. But having to do that across the board is often very time-consuming to the teams that need to make it happen. And when they need to make it happen, wait, let me skip a slide. They need to make it happen across different environments. So that is triple as challenging. So you have your operational data, your production data, your relational databases, and so on, that you need to provide access to. And it's totally different use case, but it's still the same. You want to allow engineers, for example, to access data, but you want to do them only with a break glass protocol. So they do it only when there is some problem, and you want to limit that in time. You want to enable those engineers to fix something, but only have it for 5 hours, and everything is monitored, everything is logged, and applying security policies. But you want to do the same thing over analytics. So when your analysts want to access data on your Snowflake, Databricks, Redshift, and so on, you have the visibility over what they are doing. You have the ability to set access control at scale, and you can enforce security policies across the board. And the same thing, and that's what I will talk about next, that we're seeing is obviously applying the same visibility, enforcement, access control over access to AI, to Gen AI engines. Hang on. Sorry. So just to complete the image of where the data security platform sits, basically it allows users to get self-service access through a data portal, and then it allows users to consume the data, to access the data through the same mechanisms they use without the data security platform, only that security policies, access policies are now applied and are all centralized. So you can set a policy in one place in English, and it's applied across the board. And now let's talk about how that touches AI, because I think that's basically something that, at least from my experience, occupies a lot of people's time. It's how do we do the same only with AI? So there are two aspects at least for me, there are two main aspects around that. One is to get your data to be AI ready, which is a major theme in many data teams nowadays. This needs to be contextual. So for example, it's not the same, the data is not ready as an obsolete readiness goal. It's ready in context with what you want it, what the data is, how it's governed, and what you want to use the AI for. For example, if you want to use the data by a Gen AI chat, enterprise chat application that is answering questions for customer success, it wouldn't have the same requirements like if you would have data that you want to use for analyzing performance and coming up with alternative technical ways of moving data from one place to another or optimizing queries. It needs to have different qualification than preparing it for normal machine learning algorithms, for example. And you need to make sure that it's properly governed for your Gen AI use cases. And all of this needs to be continuous because the use cases keep changing, the requirements keep changing, and the data keeps changing. There is new data introduced, but even the data that exists in data warehouses, data lakes, and the other sources of data, it often changes within the same schema. It changes. Something upstream causes different types of data to flow in. So basically, that is the number one use case where AI readiness meets a data security platform. So what we do for that is allow the AI teams, for example, there's a prompt engineer in a company that uses Satori or a platform like Satori, and that prompt engineer, they see, for example, chats, summarizations of calls or of other data, and the summary does not come out right. So let's say it takes a transcription of a customer call, and it says the customer call was awful. And then when you hear the call, you're saying everything was great. So they need to change something in the prompt, or maybe enhance the model itself. So they need rapid access to the data, but they need it to be properly controlled. They want to have policies like preventing those engineers from looking at sensitive data when they are optimizing, or knowing which customer's data, like Arun mentioned before, which customer data was touched, or even provide their customer with the ability to know which teams or analysts or engineers touched their data over a certain period of time. So that is one thing. And the second thing, yes?
One question.
Yeah, sure.
So here we're talking about getting data ready for AI.
Yes.
Security access for AI.
Mm-hmm.
But AI are just one part of the use cases.
You're right.
Enterprise.
You're right.
We
That,
also have a probably much bigger set of users and use cases for BI.
of course.
Operational reporting.
Right.
So how do you fit that all into this
So
context?
So that's a great question. I should have given you this question, because that's exactly what we are seeing. What we have done up to AI was to protect that exact use case of BI, production data, operational data. All of these uses directly with the data, and what we have been tasked for by our customers or asked, like, hey, can you just help us with this as well? Do the same, only with AI. It's much more, it's very different, but they want it to be the same. So they want the same level of visibility. So if you have in BI, you have visibility into, for example, who is that analyst that was using the generic Tableau user and was accessing 50,000 customer records last Friday, as an example. or they want to know, can I let analysts access marketing data, but only in a controlled way? So they need to ask for access, provided business justification, and get that access, but only for 7 days, so they don't end up having access to all the data in the organization. And those types of things are what is done with BI platforms, like Power BI, Tableau, and so on.
Yeah, I'll tell you how we use to specifically that, right? So you saw on the previous architecture slide, the rightmost, there are various applications. So there are different personas. Some personas use the Power BI dashboards that we have. Other personas use our care management applications. And so what we do is, because Satori is extremely neat in a way that it's like a HTTP proxy, so it's very, very lightweight. So the database where the data is, we don't give any of these applications direct access to the database. We create the link to the database via Satori. And so if whichever persona using the auth token is trying to query a particular data, it goes through Satori, Satori logs that, and then the data comes back. And so now you have complete visibility on which user was using which BI dashboard or which application tried to view which data, so that you can cross-verify. Of course, the applications themselves have access control logic to say that you don't have permission to see that data, but you also have the audit mechanism to find out who touched which data.
All right. So did that?
Yep.
Okay. So okay. So as I was saying, number one is that comes a lot in discussions with Gartner, for example, is that to be AI ready with your data, you need to have proper data governance and proper data management. So that is something that's, I would say, very easy to understand about the data security platform, how it fills that void. But what and that goes to the topic you raised. But the second thing is something that is coming up lately, is how can we basically do the same over Gen AI applications and LLMs. So one of the things that we started rolling out is secure enterprise chat, which is basically a customer, an organization. Let's take Zoom, for example. Okay, you have Zoom in your organization, so it's a standardized way where your employees can have their talks. You don't want to have 10 different types of video conference applications in your organization. So basically, it's a secure enterprise chat that is an overlay on top of the existing AI models, like OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, AWS Bedrock, and so on and so forth. So basically, it lets the users do the same. You don't want to stop them from using Gen AI, but in there you have the visibility over who's doing what, and you can enforce policies over access to AI. And that is basically the direction that we are doing with, which relates directly to AI security. That is not preparing the data for AI, but also making sure that work with Gen AI, LLMs is secure. And the second thing is the interaction, when there is such an interaction of the AI application or the LLM with VectorDB or RAG. So basically, when it fetches additional information, there we can place controls over that. Which means basically, if Ben goes to that's me. If I go to the enterprise chat application of my organization, for example, and I'm saying, okay, who is making the least money in Satori, or how do I stack up against other people in Satori? And then it's not something that's in the model itself. It's something that is fetched from the HR data. Then we are sitting between the LLM or the AI application and the data that it fetches. And it would be the same as a BI engine that fetches data. We apply the policies over that. So instead of getting the real answer of, you're in the bottom 10%, the engine itself, it gets zeros, for example, and it says I can't help you there. Even if I manage to trick the engine itself by telling him that if he will not give me the answers, a kitty will die, I will still get, I would still not get the information. So that's a couple of screenshots that are around visibility. So it's the same visibility like an audit of a database, but across the board in an organization, an audit of Gen AI data, of questions and answers, and basically the organizational, unified enterprise chat, where you can set policies, like who can use which models, who can query which data, and so on. So that's the number one thing that we are working at the moment. With that, I conclude. Thank you very much. Thank you, Arun, as well.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
All right.
Are there any questions?
I can ask a question. Nobody else.
All right.
I think your explanation just helped me understand the Satori tool and
Okay.
the value of this data security platform.
Mhm.
I have a more technical question
Okay.
because you showed like you ask a question to a chat and the data would come from HR system or finance system. And those ERP systems have very complex data security. So how does those security metadata does Satori read the metadata or do you cache the metadata? How do you know that I cannot see this HR data?
So some of it is in progress, but we know who you are, not as a threat. We know who you are as a user, right? We know who you are and the context. We are integrated with your identity provider as well. So we know a lot about you, like which team are you working in, which geographical area, and so on. So we know a lot of things about you, and the organization places policies over what a person like you can or can't do or access. So let's go back for a minute to BI, because it's a bit more simple to get that. So let's say that you go to a Power BI, and in Power BI, you run a query, and you are not from Europe, and according to the organizational policy, you shouldn't get any data of European customers when you're not a European employee. Let's say that this is the policy, okay? So you're going to Power BI. Power BI goes through Satori to the data, and on the way, we know who you are, and we know that you are not European in that case, and so we filter the data. For example, by injecting a where clause to the query that Power BI sends down the road to the data wherever it is in Synapse or wherever it is. Okay, so same thing would apply when we are sitting between the AI application and the reg. That part does not require us to understand what exactly you were asking the AI engine, and understand from that what were your intentions. No, what it knows is it knows that you are, for example, not a European employee because of your attributes in your Okta or Azure AD, and then when that AI application tries to fetch that data, we filter it, or we may redact it completely, or we may do any policy on that data. So That is how it is filtered between AI and the data it fetches, not the data that's already in the model itself. And the other part is securing what users are doing with the AI applications, which is getting that level of visibility and enforcing policies on your communication with the enterprise chat, AI chat.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Certainly love the focus on the data security, the different access and controls. How, and Satori seems to be positioned as a data security partner. Platform, sorry.
Also a partner,
Yeah,
you can
okay.
think of us.
Okay. How do you, and maybe it's just semantics, how do you see data security and the capabilities you talked about here around access and controls and auditing fitting into the broader data governance landscape? Because again, there's lots of different components around data standards and data tagging and metadata management, and all of those things are obviously going to be, I think, foundational to your data security. So how do you see those things working together, and does Satori have capabilities there as well?
Right. Again, great question. So that's I would say that this is not only a Satori thing. It's an industry or a market issue, where there is one market that is I would say strongly accelerating, which is data security platforms. We're not fortunately or unfortunately, we're not the only data security platform. There's one market, and there is another market that's a data and analytics governance platform, which are in many ways they overlap, right? And one of the main aspects where they overlap is access, security, privacy, all of these things that we cover. Now, if you read the specifications of a data security platform, you see a perfect fit between what we do and what the data security platform does, for example, according to Gartner. When you look at data and analytics governance platforms, I don't think there is any product that is complete in its requirements. There are obviously the data catalogs, for example. There are the data security platforms. So this is also, both of them are forming markets. If you look at the market guide this year and last year, you see differences. And so what we see, and also the rest of the market is seeing, is a lot of collaboration between your data security platform and your data catalog, for example, and sometimes your data observability as well. So you don't have a complete solution, but because the platforms speak with each other, your Colibra speaks with your Satori or any other data catalog, for the organization, overall, it's one platform. Does that answer the question?
It does, and you kind of tipped what I was going to ask as a follow-up. You mentioned data observability, because data observability and data quality also is kind of part of that ecosystem.
Definitely.
What I'm trying to avoid is getting multiple different partners for these different solutions, but it sounds like that's kind of where we are right now, kind of patching these things together.
Yeah, so
to cover
again,
the bases.
Yeah, again, and so that's why we like it when different companies that fill up this puzzle, I would say, of or this stack of data and analytics governance platform stack, that we play nice with each other. So so the platforms really interact as if you have one platform in there. So you're setting your policy in your data catalog, and then the data security platform, in this case Satori, of course, enforces that on top of all of your data use and data access and the data observability part. For example, when you're looking at data in the data observability, you don't have any sensitive data that leaks outside, for example, and so it all plays nice. Something that that is different though, data and analytics governance platform are mostly focused on analytics use cases. And also some of the data security platforms focus mainly on the data analytics use cases. We believe that it's a much wider landscape, that a data security platform should address both the analytics, but also the operational data and also the AI interactions.
Yeah, as someone who manages terabytes, petabytes of data per customer, and we've got so much data that we do, there's also different personas within our company with different goals. And the data governance, data observability is a different persona versus the CISO, for example, is more on the Satori side, data compliance, audit, and all of that. But here it's more on the implementation team, the customer success team, that are ensuring that the standardized data model that I mentioned, the data observability and the data quality, there's a very strict bar there, because once we get there, you don't want someone's blood pressure to be like 300 versus 250 when it doesn't make sense. Right? So putting all those data quality rules, data observability rules, that's a different, we do have a different solution there. I would find it really hard to believe someone can do everything in one single solution and do it really good, because these are huge markets by themselves. So yeah, we do have separate solution for that.
Would you share who you use?
I don't know if I can speak to that.
Okay.
But I know we can talk. We
Okay,
can say
sounds
Satori
good.
though. Yeah.
I think that's probably enough, all we have for time.
But if you do have any other questions, feel free, of course, to reach out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you all.
Great session. So your healthcare cloud.
Yes.
You have your own Spark S3.
Yes, we have our own custom jobs written in Spark.
On Snowflake.
On Snowflake.
How come you have to do this?
We also use Databricks.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I don't see it on the
If I show you the actual diagram,
Okay.
there's so much, a lot more detail.
Hi there.